Before we begin our next sermon, I just want to give a big thanks to Cousin William. He has shaped much of what you see and hear. He's responsible for our graphics, our music. His hands help guide our videos and presence into the world. He gifted us our first microphone, and now he has gone above and beyond and has gifted us our first camera as well. I'm still learning the tools needed to bring that camera to life, so you're not going to see it just yet. But if all goes well, it will be ready by our next sermon, which we're going to continue to aim for Tuesdays at 5:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So let it be known, thank you, Cousin William. And thank you all for showing up as yourselves, each in your own way. Can I get an A Terra?
A Terra. Pedro?
Now let us begin. Welcome, cousins and siblings. I'm Pope Pedro I, the first hope of the Church of the Holy Book. Where do you get your morals from? That's a question I've heard more than once. Usually asked with a kind of quiet confidence, like the answer's already decided. Like without God, there's nothing holding everything together. I was talking to someone once, just a normal conversation, or at least normal for us. And at some point, he said something that stuck with me. He said, if I knew there was no God, I would be the biggest killer in the world. I remember thinking, that might be the most honest thing anyone's ever told me. Because what he revealed in that moment, that's not morality, that's supervision. And that's not a small difference. That's the difference between being good and being controlled. Because if the only thing keeping you from doing harm is the threat of punishment, then the harm is still there. It's just waiting for privacy. And I'm not saying that to judge him. If anything, I respect the honesty. Most people, they don't say the quiet part out loud. They just live it quietly. They follow rules, not because they understand them, but because they're afraid not to. And fear can control behavior. It can make you obey, make you conform, but it can't create goodness. Because goodness is not performance. It's not something you turn on when you think someone's watching. Goodness, that's what you do when no one's looking. And that's where things start to shift, because if no one is watching, no God, no authority, no punishment, then what's left? You are. Your understanding, your awareness, your recognition that your actions don't exist in isolation. Because truth does not require belief to function. Gravity works whether you believe in it or not. Fire burns whether you respect it or not. And harm still harms, whether you justify it or not. You don't need a commandment to know that. You need awareness. Because when you actually understand reality, you start to see patterns. You see that suffering spreads. You see that trust matters. You see that cooperation builds things, and destruction tears them down. And suddenly, morality isn't something you were told. It's something you observe, not given, discovered. The same way we discovered that falling hurts. The same way we discovered that lying compounds. The same way we discovered that ignoring truth doesn't make it disappear. It just delays the consequences. And that's where everything changes. Because now, you don't avoid harm because you're afraid. You avoid it because you understand. And that understanding is the foundation of everything. That is what the pillars point to. Not rules, not commandments, observations. Seek truth, because without it, you are ignorant to consequences. And being ignorant to consequence doesn't make you innocent. It makes you dangerous. Because lies don't just deceive others, they trap you. They multiply, they require maintenance, and eventually you don't even know what's real anymore. But truth, it doesn't need to be defended like that. It doesn't need belief. It doesn't need protection. It just waits, unmoved. And whether you align with it or ignore it, it will still be there. So when someone asks, without God, what stops you from doing whatever you want? maybe the better question is, what's stopping you now? Because if the answer is fear, then that isn't morality. That's supervision. And the moment the watcher disappears, so does the behavior. But truth doesn't disappear. Consequences don't disappear. Other people don't just disappear. And goodness, real goodness, was never about being watched in the first place. We were told morality came from above, but what if it didn't? What if it came from understanding, from seeing clearly, from recognizing that our actions ripple outward whether we believe in them or not? The pillars are not commandments, they're just observations. And this is only the beginning of them. The first pillar we're talking about, seek truth. Because truth is not finished, and neither are we. And if that's true, and everything begins here, with truth, not the kind you repeat, not the kind you inherit, the kind you're willing to face. Because most people don't reject truth because it's hard to find. They reject it because it's hard to face. It's easier to wear a mask, to smooth it out, polish it, call it who you are. And after a while, you forget it's even there. You start to believe it. You look in the mirror and you don't even see yourself anymore. You see the version of you that's easiest to live with. That version of you that's always certain, always right, always unquestioned. But the mirror doesn't lie. It just waits. And every now and then, in a quiet moment, it shows you something you didn't ask for. Like a contradiction or a doubt, like just a small crack in the story. And you have a choice. You can look closer or you can look away. Most people look away. You know, truth is not gentle. It doesn't ask what's comfortable. It asks what's real. And sometimes what's real doesn't feel good. So we soften it. We tell small lies, not to deceive others, but to protect ourselves. And at first, they feel harmless, weightless. But they don't stay that way. They grow. They need support. They need more lies to hold them up. Until one day, you're not protecting yourself anymore. You're protecting a lie. You're maintaining something fragile. And the truth, the real one, is still there, waiting, unmoved. Because truth doesn't argue with you. It doesn't chase you. It just remains. And the longer you avoid it, the heavier everything becomes. Not because truth is cruel, but because it's unbending. And most people don't fear being wrong. They fear what it costs to admit being wrong. Because to admit you were wrong is to let something die. It's like an identity, a belief, a version of you. You have to let it die in order to admit you were wrong. And that feels like loss. But it isn't. Cousins and siblings, that's growth. Because every time you say, I was wrong, you make space for something more accurate. Something closer to reality. And that's the work. Not certainty. Certainty is easy. Certainty says, I already know. While truth is standing there saying, look again. Well, certainty builds walls. Truth opens doors. And that's why doubt matters. Not endless doubt, not chaos, but honest doubt. The kind that asks, what if I'm wrong? Because without questions, nothing's going to improve in your life. A mind without doubt doesn't grow. It just defends, it protects itself from change. But truth is not something you defend, it's something you align with. And alignment requires movement, adjustment, correction, again and again. Because truth is not like a fixed point. You can't throw a dart at the map and find truth. It's not something you arrive at and keep. It's something you move with, something unfinished. Always expanding, always refining. And that's uncomfortable. We want answers. We want stability. We want something to stand on and say, this is it. But truth doesn't work that way. It moves. And if you stop moving with it, you don't keep truth. You don't seek truth. You keep an old version of it. And then you call it final. That's where people get lost. Not because they didn't find truth, but because they stopped updating it. And then they defend it. Protect it. Even when reality starts to disagree. But truth doesn't need your defense. It will outlast you. The only question is, will you stay aligned with it? Or will you choose comfort instead? I mean, you can choose comfort. That is an option. You can ignore what you see. You can silence doubt. You can protect the version of yourself that feels stable and safe. But there's a cost. There's always a cost. And the cost is clarity. So seek truth. Not because it's easy. Not because it's comfortable. But because it's real. Because it grounds you, sharpens you, keeps you honest, even when honest is inconvenient. And without it, everything else collapses. Because morality without truth is just performance. And performance only lasts as long as someone is watching. And eventually no one is watching, no audience, no judge, no voice in the sky, just you. And the truth of what you are. Not what you say, not what you believe, what you do. And if the only thing that ever made you good was the fear of being seen, then remove the fear. And you don't reveal evil, you reveal emptiness. Because goodness was never built, it was borrowed. But real morality doesn't need to be enforced. It just emerges. It emerges from understanding, from awareness, from recognizing that you are not separate from the consequences you create. And once you see that, once you can really see it, you don't need to be watched. You're not trying to avoid punishment anymore. You're trying to understand the consequences of what you do. And that is where I get my morals from. Thank you so much for being here, for listening, thinking, questioning. Until next time, remember, there are no absolutes, only better understanding. Be a net positive, cousins and siblings.